After all, ebooks and print books do not exist dichotomously. They are social artifacts, assemblages of cultural practices that manifest and persist as material objects, and the relationships between them need not be framed antagonistically. The rhetoric of print versus electronic, or analog versus digital, is not only reactionary and reductive, it is technically and historically erroneous. Consider the multiple ways in which digital media and websites have supplemented the book and analog media for just the last 10 to 20 years. Print textbooks, especially in fields such as art history, music studies, film studies, media studies, often correspond with websites that contain rich images, video, and audio. In literary studies, Catherine Hales's 2008 print book on electronic literature comes with a companion CD containing 60 works of fiction and poetry. Scholars regularly reference both the CD and the book. In Digital Humanities, our university's own Ray Siemens has co-edited 2 of the field's most important volumes, a companion of Digital Humanities, a companion to Digital Humanities, and a companion to Digital Literary Studies. Both are available in print and online, with the volume's web presence arguably driving its print sales. And finally, in the music industry, 2011 was, according to Nielsen SoundScan, the best year for vinyl sales since 1991, with 3.9 million units sold in the US alone. It is now commonplace to see newly released LPs accompanied by a free digital download of the album. Without too much effort, we can foresee a similar scenario in the book industry. All of which is to say, when it comes to media, people still want objects in hand. Giving an LP to a music enthusiast, giving a new book, especially a board book, to a child, giving a novel complete with handwritten inscription to a good friend. And of course, there's reading in the bathtub. Whatever the case, the working assumption is that digital information wants to be free. And regardless of whether that's true, the assumption shapes how people are basically reluctant to pay for media that are solely in digital format. True formats will change over time. For instance, the book and CD combo is certainly losing traction, and many textbook companies are altering their publication strategies. Nevertheless, the NRC data reminds us that media must be studied in bundles, relationally and recursively, not independently. Economically, culturally, or philosophically speaking, one medium simply does not replace another. New media remediate old media. And in so doing, old media persist through new formats, new contexts, and new interfaces. Our ebooks are perfect examples of this historical phenomenon. Practically all of them mirror the affordances of the print book, even if they are searchable and they are acquired easily or not. They are still paginated, bound, and read sequentially. And we do, after all, call them books. I can read and annotate an ebook too, and I can save it somewhere for future access. Put this way, there's nothing inherently ephemeral or immaterial or oral about the digital. Electronic texts are repeatedly inscribed onto storage media, more so than print ever has been. And the real issue is whether people can locate the source of their inscriptions. Odds are you cannot blame your ebook's disappearance on the dog. All of which is to say, ebooks and print books are incredibly similar. Their primary difference is how they are transmitted, whereas in the case of print, the storage and display of text are collapsed into the same object. With ebooks, text is stored in one place, say your hard drive or a server at Amazon, and it is displayed in another on the screen of your laptop, your e-reader, or your desktop. The question then is not whether the book is dead. Folks in the book industry, Google, Amazon, and Apple, will certainly tell you otherwise. For them, the book is a market rendered anew. Rather, the questions are, dear speaker, apology, how we are imagining the book in a digital age, who is investing in its history and in its future, and who is claiming that the book is dead, for whom, and under what assumptions. To be sure, these are matters that warrant serious scholarly attention. If we ignore them, then it's not just our bookshelves that are at stake, it's literacy too. The future of the book is the future of education. Both may be changing, but let's not kill them off just yet. Thank you.
Leader of the opposition. Now we return to the Prime Minister for the final 2 minutes of rebuttal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to address some comments from both the Leader of the Opposition and from the Honourable Tucker. First, I agree that we are in a transitional phase. Sales of e-readers and tablet books doubled in 2010 and doubled again in 2011, those spikes occurring usually around Christmas time. Now, it may be because this is a fad and it's an easy gift to give to somebody over the holidays. It may not result in the uptake of digital readership. Right now, these things are gadgets in our lives. It's been suggested that we use print books still and continue to use print books in combination with web technology and with CDs. It's hard to imagine how we might roll all these things into one, but it's imaginable. Many people are thinking about how to have one single experience of printed text, CD, audio, and visual. We don't, after all, continue to carry around with us scrolls. It's hard to imagine, but not unimaginable and far from impossible. With regard to the comments that were made and the quotation from the New York Times article, which I also read, comparing our digital experience to cooking with small children is a good one. We are so drawn to clicking, to searching while we're using any kind of digital device. There's Facebook, there's eHarmony, there's Epicurious, there's Amazon, there's Justin Bieber's Twitter feed. All of these things are presented to us right in the background of whatever it is we're supposed to be working on. But this shows us that we're easily distracted. Let's take that as a good thing, because being easily distracted shows us how complex we are as human beings. It shows us something about the complexity of human experience. We seek entertainment, we seek information, we seek connection. We're complex. Well, just as in the pre-Gutenberg era, we had to cultivate different skills and values, such as memorization techniques, so too now, in this post-Gutenberg era, we may have to cultivate a different set of characteristics and values. For example, focus, concentration, discernment. This may lead us, this very distractibility of the internet and our capacity for distraction may lead us to demand higher quality products.
Time warning.
Thank you. To better and to make better and more captivating ways to express content and invite response and dialogue. And here in the university, it will lead librarians to fashion new ways to pull students to the library, now unconstrained by the library's four walls. And it will lead faculty to become more innovative, more creative, and to exploit the possibilities of the unbound text and ultimately the unbound classroom. Thank you.
Thank you, honourable members.
We have heard from the members of the government and the members of the loyal opposition. We now open the floor to you, the members of the gallery, to make statements from the floor. I have a microphone here that I will bring up and could be passed down to you. As I said before, keep your statements brief, to the point, and ideally make it clear whether you are speaking in favor of the resolution, be it resolved that the book is dead, or speaking against it. Would anyone like to make the first statement from the floor?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I must say, Mr. Speaker, I am shocked and appalled, Mr. Speaker, that the Prime Minister, in her otherwise intelligent and intelligible statement, will appeal to Wikipedia as a democratization of knowledge. Mr. Speaker, this is an outrage at the university to appeal to such a blasphemous collection of crowdsourced lies and misinformation, Mr. Speaker. I am shocked.
Sir? Anyone else?
On a more solemn note, Mr. Speaker, we're acting like everyone in the world has access to that net. I wouldn't want to be someone somewhere outside of that net, say in northern Canada, which doesn't have that net. The last New York Times article I read said that 40% of the world's bandwidth is being used by 2% of the world's population. We cannot be the 1%ers and say the book is dead. Cannot be dead, it must be saved.
Thank you.
As the possessor of, well, nearly 100 books on my iPad, I have to say that I do not agree with the Prime Minister. The book is not dead, not yet anyhow, and must be saved. I think of two situations. One is small children who, believe it or not, are quite ready for electronic means. And I think of evangelization in the third world, which has depended so much on cheap printed copies of the Gospels and other writings, iPads not being easily available. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to speak against the motion. I believe that the very words of the government's proposal indicate that it's erroneous. Specifically, their suggestion that the book may be dead. That presumes that the book in the past has been alive. Being alive, Mr. Speaker, one can have an emotional relationship with it. One can even love it and want to pass it on to one's children. Can you imagine wanting to love and pass on to your children your Kindle?
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to speak on behalf of the position that the book is not dead, or more accurately, it should not be dead. As the speakers were debating, I was looking up an article by Thomas Macaulay called Gladstone on Church and State. It begins with a long paragraph or two about how wonderful it is that Mr. Gladstone was able to put his ideas into book format so that people could examine them in depth and over repeated periods of time and discover how wrong they were. My fear is that if the book does die, that we will get into what Macaulay called the kind of political type of discussion where a politician makes a speech, it's gone in an instant, there's no way of checking his facts, his logic, and we're left with a muddle. So I hope the book does survive, mainly because it gives us the opportunity to check the writer's facts and logic, and then make an informed conclusion.